Hey guys, welcome once again to another market review session with us here at EasyFX Academy. And I'm not going to take too much of your time today. I'm just going to go straight into what I believe are the prospective, moves that we should be expecting this week on the charts basically for different commodities, and then how exactly you can then use this as something to as your edge, all right, during the course of the week. So let's start from USD CAD as opposed to what we would usually do, right? But let's just start from USD CAD right now. So I believe for what we can see on the daily time frame for USD CAD, definitely we should still get to see some level of bullish movement. All right, but however, before that, I'll prefer to still see a little bit more of the drop. All right, the reason why I have this resistance, or sorry, this support rather, marked out is because I believe that maybe to some extent we should still get to see this support being tested. Now, if that does happen, all right, I'll give you two scenarios and I'll explain what exactly you can do. All right, if that does happen, yeah, right, I'd expect that at the very least, possibly we should get to see maybe a sweep, of this low, maybe price coming into this FVG around here, and then we should then get to see, you know, sort of the buy continuations off of this, right? So this sort of is the general idea of what I'm expecting right now on USD CAD. So let's just look at it a bit better. I believe for this type of scenarios, I am just I'm more comfortable rather using the Fibonacci retracement tool. So I'm just going to plot my fib from here to here. Let me make that as accurate as I can. Right, so something like that, and then oh, sorry, forgive me. I'm just going to plot my fib again. Right, so just get here. Right, so we have that there, and then I can just mark possibly around here, possibly around here. So the idea is still very simple. The idea is still basically the same. What I'm just watching out for right now is for price to maybe give us a sweep of that low. All right, and then we still get to see a little bit of a drop, but this is on the daily time frame. All right, this is not something that might happen, even this week. All right, depending on how how much the market does move. However, if we come down to the let me sit on the daily time frame anyways. If you still look at it a bit better, you see that again, if at all we get to see storage rejections from here, we could have price continuing towards the upside, but it's not something that I am so keen on, or I'm so focused on it happening right now. So let's go to the 4 hour time frame. Or let me come down to the 4 hour time frame rather. So the 4 hour time frame, you still see that this region we also have pivot region still encapsulated inside there. So that is something that we can look at, or we can look towards at the very least. So I think for the meantime right now, for more immediate structure, what we can see for more immediate structure right now, possibly we should get to see maybe something towards this end, and then we should get to see the drop, happen from there. So maybe something towards the end will be what I'm expecting. So it means that right now on USD CAD, I still want to see a drop, but prior to when that drop, prior to me, the expectation for that drop, I want to see price still give us a little bit of a push towards the upside. I am hoping, all right, from what I can see, that maybe we do not get to see price push as far, up as far high as here at that. But let's see. From what I can basically see right here, okay, this is all right. This was previous resistance here, or sorry, previous support here that then become resistance around here, and price basically hasn't had the ability to break above it. Let me check it on the 2 hour time frame quickly. I don't see if we have any interesting regions that we might need to watch out for. This was a pivot around that same region that price already has tested or was coming to basically twice. So that basically tells me that we might not necessarily have that zone or that region being respected. All right, so I think for what I'm seeing here right now on USD CAD, I'll just tell you this: the basic idea or the basic basis for a buy to sell. All right, I still want to see price move up a little bit, maybe into this zone again, maybe a third time, and then I want to see the drop happen from there. But overall, my general trade, as it was, or the general trade I would prefer to take on this would be a buy from somewhere around here. So my buy POI, all right, is between 1.36598 and 1.36165. That is my buy, POI on USD CAD. I believe that for me that would be a more conservative trade, all right, for me to take. So that's it for USD CAD. I will not take too much time, with other commodities also. Next up we'll look at GBP USD. And from what I can see, let's have on the daily time frame. Let's have on the daily time frame. So if you look at what we've seen in the past couple of weeks, maybe possibly since this is August. All right, so this is like about a week or maybe 2 weeks. Is it up to two? Not yet, basically, but basically, let's just say a week or so. Right now, we've seen this guy giving us bullish movement for the past maybe week. All right, so I still believe from what I can see on this time frame, at least on 4 hour time frame, that we should still get to see, GBP USD still give us, some levels of bullishness rather. But all right, but that being said, I think from what I can see right now, because again we've come into this region here, all right, coming to this pivot region around here that basically has held up once, all right, has held up twice. So we've seen touch one around here. We've seen touch one around here, touch two around here, touch three around here. So basically, this is the first time that price has come into that region, and it is very likely that we should be getting, a break above that region. All right, so if I'm working with that, I think I would love to then position myself for possible retracements very soon on GBP USD, so that then we should be able to join in for possible continuations on the buy. I hope you understand that, right? So I think, quite easily on my chart I can just easily spot this as where my, most likely POI would be at the moment. All right, so it means that this will be where I'm watching out for possible buys from. I don't see a sweep of this low price coming into this region, and then we get to see the buy. So buy POI between 1.34783 and 1.34466. The idea is still simple. All right, I possibly maybe want to still see price when we push up a little bit, get a drop, something like this, and then we get to see the continuation for the buy. Because from what I can see on the daily time frame, we should still have, a little bit of the buys left on, on GBP USD. Right, but prior to when we get to see that buy materialize, definitely in the in the move you see an impulse, you see a retracement. So definitely we should still get to see some level of that retracement in the form of a bearish movement, before we get to see, the buys materialize fully. Right, so all that is clear for GU. I think we can also look at GBP CHF. All right, GBP CHF. I think this is something I just saw a couple of maybe days ago. I can't remember when. But basically, this is just something. And if I'm going to be taking this, I'm going to say this right now. If I'm going to be taking this, please be very, very cautious. I am one of the so I won't say ardent haters, all right, but I am not a fan of CHF pairs so much, all right. But this is still something I believe should be able to play out, or at least should play out quite well on GBP CHF. Sell region between 1.09181 and 1.08755. This is quite a huge region, all right. So unless you're going to be taking this as a swing trade, or you're going to be using, maybe a smaller lot size as opposed to what you might usually use, all right, I would advise that you should be very, very cautious on this trade. All right, so basically I'm expecting a buy to sell up of this. All right, so that's just it. It's quite simple, basically. I just want to see the continuation for the sell. The reason why I marked out this region, or I have this region marked out rather, is because that basically is a pivot for me also. You can see that in that region, we've had some level of buys and sells happening inside there. We've had rejections towards the downside and towards the upside, basically inside that region. So I want to watch out for the possible reactions that would happen when price does come back into there. If you're an aggressive trader, you might enter in immediately. All right, if you're more conservative, you might be, more comfortable just waiting for the 50%, which would be around 1.08977 for you or so. Or you might just want to watch out for the 50% of that region, depending on however you are more comfortable with and your risk appetite. But I believe this is something that you should watch out for this week. Next up, let's see GBP card, and I believe something similar to what we just explained on GBP CHF. Basically on GBP card right now, what I'm seeing is that we are having, or we've had, in this case, we've had a minor break of structure towards the downside. And if I'm looking at it like that, then definitely I should be watching out for the region or the origin, all right, that actually gave the points that actually caused that break of structure as it was. And if I'm looking at it, as that, let's see, this is it. So if we're looking at anywhere before here, I'm going to mark out a couple of regions, and then we'll try our best to look at them a bit better, maybe on the lower time frames, to have a more firm idea. Because this one already does price got into it. It seems, yes, it seems price has already given us, the touch into this region. However, I'm not necessarily sold out on it. I'm not necessarily sold out on it. All right, but all the same, I think there's something that should at least work. This looks playable, because already we've seen a fair bit of a rejection from there when price got there. So I think on this though, this looks like the move has already started. All right, but if you're able to get the re-entry for this sell, all right, you might want to look out for that during the course of this week. At least maybe till Wednesday, I believe we should still see a couple of sales playing out on this guy, or maybe even till Thursday, depending on how much we get to see the market move. Again, I think I know that this Friday is going to be the NFP release. So please, let's do well to be cautious. Like I usually told you, during the weeks that you have NFP and CPI, I expect that market movements will basically be tailored to push price to where, as it was, the organs at the top. Let's call them that, right? are basically waiting for price, or they'll prefer price to be all right. So be very, very cautious, during the course of the week where you're trading, your risk management, everything. Just be very, very cautious, and you'll be fine. You'll be very, very, very fine. All right, so that's just it for GBP card. Basically, the region that we are in for the sales right now is between 1.86393 and 1.86623. All right, so that's just it for that's just it for GBP AUD. So was that GBP AUD or GBP card? Yeah, that was GBP card. So that's it for GBP card. All right, so for Euro USD, I think that's the one. That's the next one I would love to look at. Something similar to what we just said on GBP USD. Overall, from what I saw earlier on the daily time frame, I still believe that we should get to see this guy give us a little bit more of that push towards the upside. All right, I still want to see that push towards the upside. However, for what we can see immediately, that means this week, like right now, this week, we possibly should get to see some sales, maybe during the course of the week, because already we had, let's see, already we had this pivot here where the price has already made use of. You can see that price has already made use of it here. So I believe right now, let us see. See, we're expecting this guy to still drop. So the general idea is still the same. I'm still working with the fact that I'm just watching out for possible uh little retracements that we can pick up on, and then joining for the bullishness that I am currently seeing. So if I mark this region now, let me see it on the 2-hour time frame first. All right, I think this is still workable. I think this is still quite workable. All right, so basically this is what I'm watching out for right now on USD. So something similar to what we just saw on GU also. So sell, right? Sell, and then let's see if we can get the buys from there. So the buy region for me, or the demand region for me, is between 1.16751 and 1.16587. 1.16751 and 1.16587. That basically is where I'll be watching out for, for possible buys at the moment. For possible buys at the moment. Do I feel like this guy might still give us a long drop towards the downside this week? Not really, and I'm bringing this up because to some extent we have this fair value gap left behind here, and I do not necessarily think that price is going to want to come here again, at least not immediately right now. Reason being that this would have been a very, very good point for price to, again, anyway, there's liquidity resting around here. Definitely this would have been a good enough place for price to sweep liquidity from. However, I think we've already gotten to see an SBR pattern that has already been used basically. So I expect at the very least should not necessarily go back there instantly, or at least this week. So yeah, let's watch out for this. Let's watch out for this. Basically, let's see how this plays out before, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday. All right, because Thursday to Friday I'll be more focused on CP NFP, the NFP release rather. So this is just it for Euro USD. Let's see Euro AUD next. I think Euro AUD last week I gave a swing bias for the sell to buy sort of scenario. Basically, we've seen let me show you on the daily time frame. Basically, we've seen this previous high here being taken out. All right, and if you come to the 4-hour time frame, you see that basically everything that we had last week was simply the retracements that would come, or that should come rather, before you get to then see the continuation for the impulse, right? So basically this is what I'm expecting right now from a swing basis on Euro AED. All right, I'm still expecting a buy, like I said last week, from here. Buy region on my demands in between 1.77918 and 1.77297. That's it for Euro AED. I'm not going to take too much time on this. However, in case you are interested in looking out for possible sales, you want to join in for the possible sales, I would advise you to be very, very cautious. I would advise you to be very, very cautious. Part of me still believes that we might get to see maybe. Let me see if I can use the path tool and draw up what exactly I'm maybe expecting on this guy, right? Or something, maybe something like this, right? Maybe something like this. What we might get to still see. Let me see on the 2-hour, the 1-hour time frame. Yeah, basically. Might not get to see price move as far up as there, as far high as there, rather, but all the same, this is what I'm watching out for right now. Overall, I'm just watching out for that retracement to that my demand region before I watch out for any buys. But if you're watching out for sales, uh it depends on your risk appetite really, because this is by all means a valid rejection, and a valid rejection block, or a valid order block, depending on However you decide to look at it, this is quite valid. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see it work though, but let me just give it to you all the same. You can just have it if you have the ability, if you have the what was it called, the risk appetite for it. I believe there's something that you can also work with. Sell region between 1.79337 and 1.78911. All right, though I'm not going to be too keen on that. I'm not going to over leverage on that if I were you. If I believe it's still something fairly, relatable, fairly workable. Again, you can easily work with 50% of that region if you don't want to use the full expanse of that region. Again, sell region between 1.79337 and 1.78911. Right, so I hope that is clear for Euro AD. Next up, I think we'll look at ADCHF. ADCHF. All right, yeah. I remember I was expecting something like this maybe last week, and I didn't get to see it materialize. I didn't get to see it materialize around last week, so let's look at it again and see if it's still looking valid. For the daily time frame, again, that's just a pivot that is just sitting around there on the daily time frame. Price basically already used this once, which is why I'm sort of struggling with, if that would work. But I think we should still get to work with this. I believe we should still get to work with this. Yeah. So let's work with this for the meantime. All right. ADCHF possible sells from here. Region between 0.52660 and 0.52559. 0.52660 and 0.52559. That'll be my current supply region that I'm watching out for on AED-CHF. Now you might be wondering why exactly I'm using this region, even though we've gotten to see that this region has already been tested once before our time frame. Basically, I'm using this region based off of the daily time frame, right? That is literally pivot on the daily time frame. And if you notice, even though we're going to see price coming there once, that first time I got to see that touch was a very, very strong rejection from there. And I think, and I believe, from what I can see, at least that we should still get to see, that zone holding up. Overall, though, I would have preferred to, maybe use the full expanse here, right? Which would have been, a lot. Even though even as I'm looking at it right now, it's looking a lot more. What's the word I want to use? It's looking a lot more safer. So let's beat it down a little bit. So let me just use this full expanse. Let's focus on this full expanse here. So let's focus on this full expanse. So at least we still have the opportunity for price to still give us a little bit of a push, towards the upside. Towards the upside, basically. Price hasn't broken this. Oh, it has basically, but not necessarily strong enough. All right, we have this here also. So basically my sell region now, revised sell region, right, is between 0.52, give me a minute, 0.52, 0.52592 and 0.52757. So again, 0.52592 and 0.52757. That basically is my supply region that I'm watching out for on ADCHF. Next up, we'll do AD card, and then we'll do gold, and then we'll call it a night, right? So AD card, I am going to be very, very cautious. Now for AD card and ADCHF, basically I prefer if you're very, very cautious with these two. All right, but for AD card, I've already had this region I marked out earlier here between 0.90 284 and 0.90082 for the possible sales. Now already from what I can see here on the 4-hour time frame, and let me check on the daily time frame. Yeah, basically we have every reason for price to give us those sales, or give that sell rather. But basically from what I can see right now, it seems like the sell has started. But and I say that but very emphatically, I'm going to be very, very cautious with this. All right, we have trend line liquidity resting there. All right, price definitely might have one or two reasons to decide to come there and eat its cake, basically. So let me delete this. So basically, I'm going to be watching out for sells from here. All right, let me see if we can pick up on any other one. I'm going to be very, very cautious with this, because I am not necessarily trusting this zone with the way I'm currently seeing price action. I think we'll go back and review Euro USD after this, but let me just confirm something, or let me just give us this right now. All right, so basically what I'm going to be watching out for right now on AD card will be the possibility for sales from here. If I get to see a good enough re-entry on the lower time frame, maybe 30 minutes or the 15 minutes time frame, maybe during the course of the day, I'll work with it. But for the meantime, I'm just going to be watching out for possible sales. If this zone gets broken, definitely I'll change my bias to a buy. And then what I'll be watching out for will be a sort of break and retest of that region, meaning that I want to see price break above this give us a retest of that region and then continue for the buy. But for the meantime, let's work with the sells. If we get to see a lower time frame confirmation for the sell, or lower time frame entry rather for the sells, I believe you can make very, very good use of that. Finally, last but definitely by all means not the least. Oh, sorry, I said we'll go to Euro USD, right? Sorry, let me check. Was that Euro USD that I said that I want to look at? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the one. There was one I was talking about that was expecting a break or a break above. Let me see. Was it G card? Is it? No, it doesn't look to be G card. Was it GBP? I'm trying to remember the one. There's something I saw that I just want to quickly pick up on and then we would move. I doubt if it was GU. Was it GU? Sheesh. I really, really just give me a minute. Let me see if I can identify the culprits. It's not EU. It's not EU. But then we did EA also. Is it EA? No, it doesn't look. It doesn't look. Or maybe I'm not using the proper time frame. Yes, it was EA. It was EA. So it's Euro AD. So for Euro AD, this is what I'm trying to say. Even when I say rejection candles like this, there are many things that come to mind. All right, but one of the things I try to be cautious about is the fact that there's liquidity resting above there because many people would have literally set stop losses around there, and then by all means a stop loss can happen and then their money basically gets swept off, or they basically get swept off their feet. What I'm trying to say rather right now is you should also be very cautious with this. If at all I get to see this zone, that this zone doesn't hold up right now, all right, I might just change my bias to be I might change my bias rather, to a bullish sentiment and then just watch out for a break and retest. So just for this and AD card that we just looked out for, just those two are the ones I think this should apply for right now. Right, because like I see a very strong rejection counter here. So basically, if I get to see that this zone still hold, maybe if I get to see good enough re-entry on the lower time frames, definitely I'll continue for the sales. If not, you can work with a break and retest for possible buys on UAD. All right, so I hope that is clear. So it's still the same, sell region I gave that I'm just going to be working with. All right, so that's just it. That's just that about that. Last but not the least for today's session would be gold. Dun dun dun. Don't worry, I had to put that, jump for dramatic effect. So gold has been a very bullish guy for the past couple of weeks. Basically, what we are seeing right now is that gold is nearing again an all-time high, a previous all-time high. All right, this is around, let's say, 3500, right, 3500, right. Basically, what I'm watching out for right now, because already we've seen a sweep of liquidity from this high here. So we're seeing that we saw that rather this held up once, this held up second time, this held up third time, and basically price has broken above it and is still looking to be interested in pushing towards the upside. So what I can see right now, I think I'm still very much bullish. Not I think I know. I can see that I'm still very much bullish. We are going to be looking out for bullish re-entries. I think you can work with here. Isn't as I'm looking at it right now, it feels like price already has like stylishly popped into there. But basically, I'm still quite bullish on gold right now. I'm still quite bullish on gold right now. This is what I'm talking about when I say that price basically looks to have stylishly touched that region. So that being said, let me just give us this instead, because there's this pivot that looks to be here. Yeah. So we can see that pivot that is just resting somewhere there. Let me try my best to make it as accurate as possible for us. So we have this around here, but I think you can watch out for possible buys from, if at all we get to see strong sales during the course of the week, which I'm not so sure about right now. But if at all we get to see strong sales, you can watch out for buys from here. All right, buys basically will be around the buy region, demand region will basically be around 3418.44 and 3406.90. 3418.44 and 3406.90. That'll be for my possible buys on gold. Let me see it on the 1 hour time frame, because again, yes. So again, I just saw that when I was looking at it again. We have this region here. Right, so definitely we're just looking out, we're just working with regions that are giving us the int for the bullishness. Yeah, so we have this also. Second, or POI2, this initial one I called it, let's call that POI1. POI2, all right, for the possible buys up of gold, if we get to see the sales do happen, all right, would be between 3453.00 and 3442.68. 3453.00 and 3442.68. All right, so with that being said, we've come to the end rather. All right, for today's market review session, I'm very sure you've gained one or two. I would advise you again, like I usually say, please practice proper risk management. You are not the market is not you, and that means that the market is by all means in its very, very innocent form, out to get you. I don't mean that that's just a joke, but basically what I'm trying to say is that you should be very, very cautious when it comes to trading. Practice proper risk management, don't over leverage, and again, be very, very conscious of the fact that we're having a news release this week, a very, very important news release this week, and be very, very conscious about that, and make sure you implement that, or you at least apply that to your decision making during the course of this week. And as usual, I am very sure we're going to have a very, very profitable week. Thank you for joining us for today's session. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Goodbye.